Good afternoon, everyone. This is our Tuesday, August 1st. Where did the summer go? August 1st, regular Board of County Commissioners work session, and we're here with our annual meeting with CDOT. We've got a room full of CDOT officials here. Welcome, everybody. Everybody made it through the little work that's being done coming into the entrance to Aspen, so thank you on that. So welcome. Dave, you want to take it away and make some introductions?
Am I on there? Yep.
Yeah, just the red light's on.
Great.
It's just for the, it's not amplified, it's just for
Okay, great. Thank you, and thank you for having us, Commissioners. My name is David Eller. I'm the Region 3 RTD. With me today, I have some different representatives. Sean Yates is with me with our traffic group to answer any kind of traffic questions. I've got Steve Olson's our program engineer for Program Central out of Glenwood. He's here to answer questions. TJ Blake's the Deputy Maintenance Superintendent. Tracy Truelove's our PIO for the region. Mike Goolsby is the superintendent for Section 2, which is the maintenance section in this area. And BJ Herrera is our new office manager or program assistant down in Glenwood. And she's here. And then Mike Vanderhoff's our environmental manager, planner in the back. So I think that's the CDOT staff I have here. So certainly we're here to answer questions, and hopefully I have the right people if some questions come up. But with that, I think Brian had also sent me some questions that we want to make sure we touch today's meeting, and I'll try to, as we go through, I'll point those out and we'll try to get to them, and if not, we'll certainly give some time here for some back and forth discussion and answer anything we can answer for you guys. I'll start out with our annual book. I think most of you have seen this book. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly in the interest of time, but kind of lays out our region. Region 3 at a glance. Region 3 is the largest geographical region in the state, 15 counties in northwest Colorado, and Pitkin County being one of those. We have over 560 employees, 2 maintenance sections, 3 engineering sections. Some unique things about Region 3 are the mountain passes. We have 13 mountain passes and 7 tunnels, 13 rest areas. So that certainly stretches our maintenance forces that some of the other regions don't have those same situations. As far as the maintenance, like I say, we have 2 sections. Section 2 is Mike Goolsby's the superintendent. He's down in Grand Junction. You can see all the patrols that he manages, and El Jabel is one of the patrols up here that takes care of this area. The engineering areas are broken into 3 areas. Steve Olson's our program engineer for the central area, which includes Garfield, Pitkin, Routt, Moffett, and Rio Blanco counties. And then jump right into our revenue. This is our revenue projections for this fiscal year. It shows 17 through 18. Really, it's fiscal year 18. Which starts for Colorado July of 17. You can see Colorado CDOT's budget is estimated at $1.4 billion. That budget's slightly up from past years. It's been anywhere between 1.2 and 1.4 for approximately the last 15 years. The reason it's up, gas revenue receipts, both federal and state, are up slightly, as well as some of our faster receipts for new license plates and sales of vehicles. With that said, that's still pretty flatline budget. Back in 2008, I think was our high point where we had $1.6 billion budget, and it's actually went down since then. It's a big issue for CDOT because as the budget stays flat, gas receipts stay pretty flat, the cost of doing business, as you all know, is going up. So it's certainly a challenge for us. Part of our revenues are the federal highway revenue. The federal bill's called the FAST Act right now that's in place. That was passed by President Obama in 2015, extends through 2020. Now, that was a good thing because it was a long-term bill that was passed when they kept extending the previous bill. The bad part about the federal bill is as we reach out into 2019 and 2020, the bill becomes insolvent, and there will have to be general fund transfers from the federal revenues. In other words, the gas receipts coming in are not enough to support the funding that they've dedicated through this bill. So that'll be another challenge for our federal legislators to figure out, are they going to transfer money from the general fund at the federal level? How are they going to fund this? It seems like every bill we have at the federal level in those last few years of the bill gets very difficult because there's a lot of rumors, oh, it's, the gas fund's broke and they need money, and so then it becomes a legislative battle. So certainly something to keep an eye on. Right now it's estimated they need $70 billion fund transfers per year. So we'll see what happens if President Trump comes up with something different. But certainly that's where we stand at the federal level. The next page shows basically CDOT's revenues And you can see the funds that come in from the state highway user trust fund. So it shows where does the state dollars come from and what are the different proceeds that come in. You can see most of that's motor fuel taxes, motor vehicle registrations, and like I say, the faster legislation that added a fee to, a user fee to license plates. And then the next graph down shows, well, how are those funds distributed? So you can see that about half the HUTF funding comes back to CDOT, and then a portion goes to the counties, the cities, and then the off-the-top appropriations is your CSP and Department of Revenue.
David, my apologies, I'm coming down with a cold, and it was a little borderline about making it today.
Well, I'm glad to
but
see you,
thank
Commissioner Richards.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you here.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having us. The next portion of the book is, we go into our STIP. Well, actually, I'm gonna fast forward here just a second. It's kind of out of order in this. Maybe it's not even in there. In your book, you have a fold-out sheet. I'm sorry, it's not up here for display, but it's a fold-out sheet that's 11 by 17 piece of paper. And that is basically just a further breakdown of CDOT's budget. So I talk about the $1.4 billion. I say it's not enough money, but it's a lot of money, so how does CDOT spend that? I'm not gonna go through every line, but you can see, as you fold out that sheet, that the CDOT performed work, that's our CDOT maintenance forces. And you can see they do roadway surfacing like they're doing here today in Aspen, and their biggest budget is their snow and ice. About $80 million of their 260 goes to snow and ice each year. And then we have our contracted out work, which is when we hire contractors through our engineering projects. You can see the largest funding in that is our surface treatment program, which is basically to maintain the existing roads that we have. No added capacity, no added safety necessarily. Then you see the faster safety projects. That's about $62 million statewide. In this region, gets a little over $7 million of that per year. And then as you go on down through all these, you can see TSM&O, our traffic systems management and operations, has a budget that they do ITS maintenance, take care of our VMS signs, our message boards, et cetera. So you can kind of see all the different breakouts. The one that I always point out, and I know you guys have heard me point it out before, is our debt service. And you can see that this next year, our debt, you got the authority to go bond and advance projects, but as far as how we pay them back, there's no new revenue source.
Right, and so the bond that is being paid off was around 180 million? 167 million a year. And we now are doing new bonding with no committed new revenue source unless the general fund is plush one year. And that would be 150 million. So your net gain for your budget is 16 million a year, most likely.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because it sounds great, as you said, but, and we all were very supportive. It untangles the hospital provider fee and
Right.
helps rural hospitals a lot, and at least they were thinking of CDOT.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kick a gift horse in the mouth. Anything looks good, and it does allow CDOT to advance projects. Now, with this 267 program, the commission's still struggling about, okay, what projects would be accelerated? And when this was rolled out, there was a lot of discussion about I-25 north and south. And if you all been over on I-25 north and south, it's a real problem, the congestion in those corridors. So those are statewide priorities. I-70 West was identified by the governor as a statewide priority. So I think there's an expectation to some of those strategic projects. The other piece being that there's 25% that has to go to rural Colorado. How do you break that up and still hit strategic projects? The guidance we had from the bill was we would pull projects out of our 10-year capital list. Now I'm going to back up just a sec to go to our 10-year capital list, and let's talk about that. So,
Does that have a tab here?
yeah, I'm going to go back to where we, under the STIP tab. And I think most of you are somewhat familiar how the STIP works. Okay, we go out with our project prioritization, work with our locals, and we look at a long-range plan. So we go through 2040 and say, what are the projects that we really want to prioritize in each of the areas for long-range through 2040? We've also developed then what we called our 10-year capital program, realizing that going out to 2040 might be a little unrealistic to really try to narrow things down. Then we look at what is it in a 10-year window, and what are the projects that if we took our RPP money, which is our discretionary money right now in this region over 10 years, $17.5 million per TPR, what are your projects? Intermountain TPR, which Pitkin County is a part of, have prioritized the I-70 Mountain Corridor. 50% of the money would go to that. State Highway 9, 25%, State Highway 82, 25%. Now, there's a list of projects that are there. Some have been already completed. State Highway 82 basalt is not quite complete, but it's close, the underpass. So you can see some of these projects are actually off the list, some of them are not. But this is looking at our very restricted money, what would we do in a 10-year plan? Then we took that statewide and said, all right, let's open that up a little bit and restrict that to a more of a $7 billion need type process, and we came up with this 10-year plan. Now I'm going to fast forward back to the program, to Senate Bill 267, project list. So this was a list of projects that Region 3 submitted that for all of our planning partners, all 4 of the TPRs, including the MPO, have identified as priorities over the next 10 years. Most of these projects have some money invested in them already. We've started design, we've done something in a corridor, we've been picking away at it, but you can see on page 18 is where Intermountain TPR starts as far as projects we've been working on. You can see the Highway 13 Rifle North Corridor, the Highway 9 Frisco North, I-70 West Dowd Interchange is a project on the shelf. I-70 Edwards is one we've committed design to. I-70 Garfield County interchanges such as Newcastle, we've committed some design to. I-70 Glenwood Bridge Rails, a need that we have not funded. I-70 West Vale Pass Climb Lanes, which was a strategic project that we'd like to complete. We really have put it in the back burner, realizing we don't have money close to the cost of that project. This $225 million price tag is not even complete both directions for 180. It's probably closer to a $400,000 project for both directions. 400 million, I'm sorry. Then we have I-70 West 203 interchange. We have I-70 West Frisco to Silverthorne auxiliary lanes, I-70 Silverthorne interchange. We have Region 3 sediment ponds on Vale Pass. So we can go on and on, but if you were to look at this Senate Bill 267 list for Region 3, these are projects that we have some work going on already. It would total up to about $750 million. Now, if we back up to Senate Bill 267, if I was to get 15% of the funding for Region 3, which that's probably a little bit optimistic, really, because our RPP percentage, our region discretion money, we get 14% of the statewide money. So even if we were to get 15% of that, that's about $250 million over the 5 years that we could advance the projects. So you can see I have a $750 million need here, and I'm sure there's a lot of projects that folks will say they're not even on the list. So it's kind of a drop in the bucket as far as our real need. It does accelerate money, so we'll get things done sooner, but then we'd have to pay that back. Right now, the commission has been talking a little bit about there's $50 million a year in RPP program at the statewide budget. So when they say we have to pay back $50 million a year out of statewide program, they've been talking about, well, maybe if you advance RPP projects, it doesn't hurt as bad when you have to pay back $50 million a year because you use your RPP money. So it may be kind of a zero net gain as far as more money. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Like I say, I'm optimistic we might be able to accelerate projects. I'm just not so sure that CDOT's really wanting to be real aggressive with advancing too much, knowing they're gonna have to pay it back out of asset management.
Thank you.
Okay, so other than that, I will go back to, I'm going forward, sorry. A couple other things under program updates. So after we talked about 267, one of our programs at CDOT that maybe you've heard a little bit about is RoadX. And RoadX is a funded program by the commission to look at opportunities to advance technology, look for partnerships from the private side, look at ways to better manage traffic, smarter, more intelligent management, and maybe not necessarily the old school way of thinking we're gonna build our way out of congestion. So, you know, there's a little bit of facts here under the RoadX program. Why is RoadX even brought to be? And understanding that our population in the next 20 years, 25 years is going up probably by 47%. Our vehicle miles traveled to be up by about 45%. and our average delays will be 2 to 3 times worse than they are today within the next 25 years. So recognizing that and where CDOT's budget is, we know we're not going to catch up by building added capacity. So part of the challenge for RoadX is to look at new techniques for safety, smart real-time information, traffic demand models type, TDM work where we actually notify people of when the peaks are, how to get people utilizing more mass transit, et cetera. All kinds of different technologies are out there. A lot of this right now is revolving around connected vehicles. I was just talking to George Newman this morning. There's a lot of progression with company Panasonic is talking about building their factory in Colorado next to DIA, and they've really done some things. They have automated transit that they're pushing for DIA that would actually connect all the parking around DIA that's fully automated, no drivers, a route for transit that's pretty standard. We did pilot a fully automated impact attenuator truck. So the impact attenuator trucks are these vehicles you see following a striping machine, or they have the big cushion on the back if a vehicle runs into them. So, we've talked about, well, that's probably not the safest place to put one of our employees in that vehicle when we're expecting that somebody might run into it. So they did pilot a truck that follows the striping truck, so it's fully automated. CDOT is moving forward with the RoadX program to purchase one of those vehicles. So some of the new smart technologies that are out there, I think CDOT's becoming a leader in that area. With that said, unfortunately, it's a very expensive investment. And it's just another program that will be competing for the very limited dollars we have. We've done some things with, maybe you've seen Otto. Otto was the self-driving truck that delivered beer from Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs, and the driver sat in the back and never touched the wheel. So there's stuff out there that's going to probably change the way transportation works. There's a company that's promoting Hyperloop, and if any of you are involved with the I-70 PEIS, there was discussion around Hyperloop back then, 10 years ago, right, about transporting people. Well, Hyperloop right now is more focused on transporting cargo, goods, and services. So they're talking, Colorado was one of the finalists to potentially build a Hyperloop system from DIA to Greeley, and it would transport basically product, not people at this time. So where this stuff goes in the future, I think, it could change a little bit about transportation. Certainly in the world of autonomous vehicles and safety, when I go around western Colorado, one of the things you hear is we just want shoulders. We just want shoulders on our roads. We want safe shoulders. Well, if you have autonomous vehicles that will not deviate from the lane, certainly an 8-foot shoulder might not be needed anymore. Maybe you can get by with a 2-foot shoulder or a 4-foot shoulder. You certainly got to think about other modes of travel, bicyclists, et cetera, but there's just things that might change the way we do business a little with some of this technology. So that's just a little update on that. Any questions so far on RoadX? Anything? Okay, I can always come back to. So the next slide here is Bustang. Bustang's expanded their service to what they call Bustang Outrider service, and the lines that they're trying to promote to move forward right now, Lamar to Pueblo, Gunnison to Denver, Alamosa to Pueblo, and Durango to Grand Junction. Now, they've put on here, they're all proposed for summer of 18. Actually, the Durango to Grand Junction is up and running, and that was a line that was actually in place somewhat before, and the people that were running that transit, I can't think of the name of them right now, took Bustang Outridership on, and it's just replaced that service they had with new buses. But there's a little bit of information here about what the intent of Bustang Outrider is, that there's actually federal dollars dedicated to connecting transit. It's not intended to take away anything from existing transit, but to connect, city to city. And there's kind of a map on the next page that shows some of the routes that they're looking at providing an intercity connection using Bustang Outridership. And certainly Bustang has been very popular on the I-70 corridor and even on the I-25 corridor. It's had higher ridership than they ever projected. So Bustang along those very congested corridors has worked well. Will it have the ridership along these more rural corridors? Probably not, but certainly one route a day does provide that intercity connectivity that's not there. So a little bit on the Bustang Outridership. The next slide in there on programs is the TAP program. That's our Transportation Alternative Program. I think most of you are aware of that. That's what our local agencies put in for federal dollars to help with enhancement type programs. The projects you see here in green are the projects that have been approved from the 2016 prioritization. You can see that there's one there in Minturn, in the Intermountain TPR. The one in yellow looks like at this time, as long as things stay on budget, that it has a good chance of being funded, and that's in Frisco. And there's a couple others down below, Intermountain TPR, that did not get funded this go-around, but certainly they're still on our list. And if more funding comes to tap for any reason, or if projects can't be delivered, we've been working with the TPRs to move to the next project. So at any given time, if some of these fall off, the ones on the bottom move up. So I don't know if you have any question on those, but the other slide on programs is a little update again on the eastbound I-70 Mountain Express lane, sometimes referred to as the Victoria Shoulder Lane. And this is really nothing more than just another update about, is it working? Some quick facts about that PPSL and how it's been operating. This is data from Labor Day in 2016. We had record numbers. Actually, in 2016, we had several record days. We had over 48,000 vehicles in that corridor on August 7th. And considering there's record numbers of travelers, the traffic flow has been significantly better. These heat maps are very hard to read, but it's basically by days of each month and the delay period. And the red is bad, that's congestion. So you can see back in 2014, as you went through the calendar year, you had a lot of Saturday and Sunday delay periods on I-70 eastbound. You can see from 2017, the Saturday and Sunday numbers are much different. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't had congestion. You can see there's a few days where we have had some issues. One accident or one bad winter day can really change everything for us. But as a whole, you can see it's really changed the amount of congestion on that corridor. So one of the future projects that's getting a lot of discussion right now is the peak period shoulder lanes coming back from Floyd Hill through Idaho Springs westbound, and trying to do a similar type design as we did going eastbound. And that's one of the Region 1 projects that is on their list of Senate Bill 267 projects, if that moves forward.
Steve, a question?
Sir.
On your proposal to do 3 lanes on Vale Pass in each direction, would they be a toll lane? Would the new lane be a toll lane, or would it be open to anybody?
Very good question, Commissioner. So right now, we're just starting that NEPA document out, okay? So it's a little hard to say exactly what it'll look like until we start doing some of the studies. And Mike, feel welcome to speak up if I mess up here. But we have a consultant starting the NEPA, and some of the discussion has been about building, similar to what you see in the peak period shoulder lanes, a shoulder lane that's maybe less than standard. In other words, you would have a 12-foot lane, but you may not have a 10-foot shoulder like an interstate would mandate. Now, certainly by interstate design, basic standard practice, FHWA doesn't like that unless it's a managed lane and it's only limited use. So we've had discussions about that might be a concept that you would use for trucks. The tolling of it, as far as the financial part of tolling, doesn't pan out. And the reason being is the congestion's not there today. Now, it may be there someday. But if you toll that section of I-70, the likelihood of somebody using those tolls is not like it is going into Denver where the congestion's higher. However, if we built a climb lane for trucks, they're moving slow. If you used that in winter conditions and you mandated that trucks stay in that lane, there's less likelihood that you'd have a truck spinning out and trying to pass one another and then spinning out and closing both lanes, right? Because you now have 3 lanes. The same on a downhill descent. Part of our challenge up there, if you've been going over the pass this summer, you've seen it, is doing construction, because those trucks are coming down into a lane closure, and if somebody doesn't let them over, they often will come through our lane closure. So it's a very dangerous situation. So if we have 3 lanes, that allows you to do construction, close 1 lane, shift traffic, so it really opens up a lot of operations that can help us. In addition, it does widen the interstate in places like the curves that we've had so many problems coming down westbound. So I think that there would be kind of a combination of flattening of some of the dangerous curves, trying to get rid of some of the shading, maybe moving the bike path away from the interstate, and then potentially some sort of a managed lane that would be more of a truck lane. And it may not operate all the time. It might be during winter events or construction events. Is that, and like I say, that's all to be decided, but those are some of the conceptual discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, So the next section of our book is the traffic section, and this is where I let somebody else talk because I've been talking a lot. So I'll let Sean kind of just hit on some highlights that our traffic group's doing here in Region 3.
All right, thanks, Dave. That first page there in the traffic section of the book splits out our traffic section into the three different divisions there with names and numbers and the different functions that we perform. You've probably seen this before. We have our operations section. They deal primarily with signals, signs, and stripes, and the maintenance end of traffic. We have a utility engineering section who handles, they handle the utility, coordination with the projects throughout the region. And then we have a permitting section that handles utility permitting, access permitting, and special use permitting, as well as engineering support to the rest of the region. On the following page there's some frequently asked questions that we get in traffic. For example, how are speed limits set, or what do I need to do if I need to get an access permit? And there's some links there on the website that you and your constituents can go to, or reach us at the traffic section there at the bottom. There's our main number. We do have a few projects going on in the traffic section. Throughout the region, we cover, 15 counties? 15 counties, 54 local entities. Got stuff down in Grand Junction. One project of note here coming up is the I-70 Glenwood Canyon VSL sign project. This will allow speed limits to be set per the given conditions with weather or incidents or whatever. And we'll be going out to add on that project here in the next month or so. Construction will go on for about a year. We won't be adding a significant amount of signs in there, but there will be smart technology where we'll be able to communicate with those signs, and there'll also even be some algorithms that'll intelligently set those speed limits for the given condition.
With that, Sean, is it right we are raising the speed limit on normal conditions in the canyon as well to 60, right?
That's right, that's right. And for trucks, it'll remain at 50. Let's see what else we have going on here. Okay, yeah, the State Highway 2 Independence Pass Overlength Vehicle Detection System. CDOT is partnering with the county in taking a look on a trial basis at the turnaround there at the new gates on Independence Pass. We're going to see how those work for turning trucks around this year, and then if it works out okay next year, that area will be paved. We do have a sign that's going to notify truckers of the need to turn around if they're over length, and it'll also detect their length. That project will be going out to advertisement here on August 3rd of this year. It'll be a 3-week ad, and then we look to begin construction of those components mid to late September.
On the, Sean, on the Independence Pass, as we get into the Grand Avenue Bridge in a couple of weeks, the electronic signage, will you just sort of let people know the electric messaging signages, where they'll be located, and what that message will be saying?
For the overlength vehicle detection, or are you talking about the ITS signs along the 82 corridor?
ITS signs along the 82 corridor, and also coming up from the I-70 into 24.
Yes, HLT will be utilizing that system to assist in the information propagation of what's going on with the project.
More specifically, the electronics, the messaging that I'm sure that we're going to have is that Independence Pass is closed to vehicles over 35 feet in length. There would be a $1,500 fine, and to have those located not only on this side, but also on the other side of the pass, coming in by Copper or by Twin Lakes.
Yeah, that makes sense to let folks know on I-70 before they get this far that they'll need to turn around, for sure.
Yeah, again, I think George had some good points about, I don't know that we've been messaging on those boards, the $1,500 fine for CMV. Certainly we can do a little better of that, to point that $1,500 point out. And we will also, I've talked with maintenance just this morning, Mike's gonna see if we can't get another additional VMS on the other side by Twin Lakes. There's signs over there, but they're not the variable message signing, so we're gonna try to step that up a little from the other side as well. So I think, I wish this detection system was in place already, but it'll probably be getting in place about mid-time, the detours going on. But we will be stepping up our signage on the variable message boards coming up here. And
Yeah,
hopefully
great.
deter people.
Rachel?
And I also will be reaching out to Colorado Motor Carriers to see if they can't do a little campaign to help us remind their truck drivers of the situation on Independence Pass.
Yeah, Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. I've been thinking about this one a little bit as well, and I think it's not just the truck traffic we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of increased traffic going both ways to get to Aspen or leave Aspen over the pass. And what I was wondering, and not a variable message sign, but whether there's any type of signage you have that would be to watch out for bicycles. You know, somebody told me this the other day. They said they were coming over the pass, and they said, it said the road narrows. It didn't say it goes to one lane. And I thought that was kind of funny. But I think that, you know, even we as Pickens County might want to put out the word that that's not the best ride to be doing once the Glenwood Springs Bridge closes, because there will just be a lot of traffic in a hurry. And I saw an accident when I was leaving, and they were going through the rocks where that Audi commercial was filmed, and I think they were just trying to hotshot it. And because he was just in the oncoming traffic lane on a rock, and nobody could have run him off the road. You know, it wasn't like that situation. So again, I'm thinking, you know, beware, you know, bicycle traffic, you know, post it heavily on both sides perhaps, because we're going to have people just going that way like mad and always in a hurry. And so that's frustrating for people. The other thing, I don't know if there's any way you can work with State Patrol to look at some extra enforcement. It seems the first few days, or maybe after the first few days of people realizing how bad the traffic's going to be in Glenwood, is when we're going to see people starting to try to make that cut and be up there. And it'd be nice, you know, the problem is always that they don't want to sit there and wait. And on the other hand, by the time you call them to come up, you know, so, you know, maybe if they can take that into account, at least for some of the initial phase-in, as we'll call it, of the Glenwood Springs mitigation. Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to ask a little bit about more the vehicle detection systems. Are these the systems only work on trucks, the trucks that have a transponder or something, or is this the detection systems you mentioned earlier that are coming in? Are those specifically for trucks? That's the first question.
Well, it's specific, oh, yeah, I'm on. I think I'm on. Yeah, they are specifically for overlength trucks, but it measures the axle lengths on it. It's not based on whether or not the truck has that device or not.
Okay, that was the first one. Second was, I wanted to ask just a quick question about Cottonwood Pass is another obvious solution to anybody looking at a map. And I know there might be some changes there. If you could address that quickly. And then also, I just wanted to know, would CDOT ever consider something like I call the Twin Lakes solution, which is the 40-year-old sheriff's patrol car that sits out on the edge of Twin Lakes and slows traffic very effectively. It gets people's attention. And I'm just wondering, would CDOT or CPH, Highway Patrol, ever consider
Donating
something like that to sit by the sign when we really want them to read the sign that says, you know, don't come here, you know, on this road?
That's a good idea, for sure. We could get with Captain Duran, see if maybe they got an old fleet vehicle or something. I don't see anything legal with that, do you, or?
Yeah, I think Tracy or Steve might be able to speak to some of the information we've been working on with the Grand Avenue Bridge detour, so.
Well, with the Cottonwood conversation, we were in a meeting with our emergency management service group yesterday. The Garfield County side of Cottonwood has already implemented enforcement signs where they're actually be able to provide more enforcement if a CMV is caught up on Cottonwood. Eagle County is also in step with putting some enforcement in on that side. So we always been actively messaging that Cottonwood is not an alternate route. Independence Pass does not have CMV. You know, the team also has some static signs that are going up down on the corridor to remind CMV that Independence is not an option. Do you want to jump in on that?
Right.
No, I mean, I think you covered the Independence and Cottonwood Pass pretty well. So we're aware that folks may be using those as alternate routes, and we're signing or trying to sign as best we can. I think the reality is right now we have 13 signs coming up Valley to warn truck drivers and other commercial drivers that they can't go over Independence Pass, and they're completely ignored. So we can add all the signage and all the UTC and all the extra stuff, or financially, we can't afford to, but we can keep adding that stuff, and there's still gonna be people, like drivers that come through. So we'll still have challenges. Don't expect, I wouldn't expect, I would fully expect there'll be truck drivers on Independence Pass, regardless of the messaging effort that we do, just to have a realistic
Yeah.
outcome.
And to Commissioner Richards' point, on Colorado State Patrol, quite honestly, I think for the first few days and even week of the detour, their resources are gonna be highly engaged in Glenwood.
Right.
And I think until we start the detour and see what we're getting for, traffic or increased traffic up here, we won't know. What our team recognizes is that we have a plan, but that we may very well have to change and flex and pivot on the plan regarding what we see happening at the time. So, again, what's good to know is our EMS from Pitkin, Eagle, Garfield, very highly engaged and coordinated on this effort, and I have every confidence that they've got their eyes on what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I just think however best we can highlight maybe big flashing $1,500 fine, just flashing, so it's going to catch someone's attention versus trying to scroll through what the sign is. We probably won't catch everybody, but hopefully we'll capture 99% of the people who will
We could
realize.
really improve CDOT's budget if we catch enough of them.
I wish we were getting that money. We should have made it that way, but we will look into more public messaging on the $1,500 fine. I think, George, you got a good point that some people know that, some may not. So we will, not only our signs, we might even be able to put some press releases out and things like that to really try to push it. And like I say, I think working through Colorado Motor Carriers can go a long ways if they will step up and help us with that. So we'll follow up on that. Leadville is historically challenged with CSP presence, but we can talk to Captain Duran, and we can see if there's any way to get support from that other side over there between Buena Vista and Leadville. I think they've, for the last few years, had no staffing over there. They're coming out of Salida, so believe it or not. That doesn't mean you can speed there. I didn't say that. But certainly I think that's a challenge for them. It seems like every time I ask CSP for additional help, they kind of look at me that, how many people do you think we have? But certainly we can talk to them about that and see if there's some plans. It might be as important for them to do some patrolling on the other side as it is over here.
Yeah.
I think that's where people kind of start hitting the gas a little bit, going down. And so we'll talk to CSP on that and see if there's any options.
Steve?
A gentleman from Gypsum, the town of Gypsum, the other day told me that he had been told that Cottonwood Pass would be closed for the duration of the bridge closure.
So there's some confusion.
And I want to clarify exactly what he was told, because it sounds like that was the wrong information, but.
I think there's been some confusion also. There's a second Cottonwood Pass that, what is it, over there by Buena Vista?
Taylor Reservoir.
Taylor Reservoir, and they have their pass closed for 2 seasons. They're doing improvements. The 2 counties do not have any intention of closing Cottonwood Pass, is our understanding, unless something does occur. They actually have a pretty active traffic control plan that if something starts to happen, that they would be able to pull some traffic flaggers out there to keep CMV off Cottonwood. But we understand that it's business as usual. There was never an intention as part of the detour or our project to have them do that. Because we understand locals and even, people from here often shortcut using Cottonwood getting over to that area. So tons of information out there. If we want to do the bridge update, I can share with you, we've probably held over 65, almost 70 community meetings. Our second one is this evening at 4:30 in Glenwood, kind of our last big open house. People know it's coming. They are still conversations that happen like that, but I would always encourage you to send them to our Grand Avenue Bridge website or our Facebook page, highly engaged with all the appropriate information. And we recognize we're going to get people that are confused or not sure, but our team's in place to help navigate the detour and what's happening.
Also, in terms of Cottonwood Pass, if there's a major precipitation event, are you going to have some kind of electronic sign that would talk about conditions on Cottonwood Pass, and also warn truckers that this is not a suitable place for large trucks to be going?
Some of the effort that Eagle County and Gypsum have done here recently is better signing about commercial vehicles. They didn't have a lot of enforcement in place. Now, Unfortunately, I think their fines are somewhere in the neighborhood of $80, which isn't a lot, so we know how that works. People will try it probably, but, part of the incident management plan and the getting ready for this, Gypsum has stepped up some of their signing, some of the ways they're gonna try to management. They're gonna try to do a little more local police up and down, trying to make sure they're keeping an eye on things. But, we did loan them a VMS board, so there is a board there on the Gypsum side that if they want to message things, they can. Certainly for us, we're leaving that to the jurisdiction of the counties, though. It's their county roads, so how they handle it and what messages they put, we're there to support them the best we can, but we've helped Gypsum because I don't think they were ready. So we've had a lot of meetings, but I'm hoping that as a county, they will be able to manage that. Now, if they need messaging on I-70 that says something about Cottonwood Pass in poor condition, certainly we can do that quickly by getting to our communication centers and changing those VMS boards along our highway.
Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. There's always so many topics to cover, and I know we're getting close on time. I just came back over Independence Pass yesterday to go back to the pass. And on the Lake County side, two things. One is that an area that's very close to the last turnaround here sign had several large piles of gravel in the middle of it, as if somebody was getting ready to stage a project or something. So I don't know if that would make it difficult for the turnaround. I just thought I'd mention that. I think they're supposed to have turned around sooner, but it's kind of like your last chance at the last gate. Well, it's okay, and the other thing that's even more concerning is the subsidence that's starting to happen on that road. And it's not the long drop, which, David, you spoke with your counterpart before, and they did concrete those up. So it's not the big drop. It's the coming down from the top of the pass to that large meadow, before the big drop. But if you're in the right-hand lane coming home on Highway 82, there's some areas that the dips are getting to be about 1.5 feet or more, sliding off to the right. And you can see the pavement starting to crack as well. And I just think about one bad rain event there or microburst. It really is getting very weak, and we're having a lot of subsidence issues on the stretch between the very top and before the drop. So coming down to that big meadow area. Really like you to talk to your counterparts on that.
We can take a look at that, and Mike, with our maintenance group, can certainly kind of see if we can do anything. Timing's getting short, but the chip, I'm assuming that's leftover chips on.
Yeah.
So we may have to think about.
Yeah, we've had the same. Yeah, you'll have to come up to a microphone. I'm sorry about that. We've had the same sort of issues around Lake Rudai, which we've had to deal with for years in a temporary measure before really finalizing.
If I could address the subsidence areas and where it's sloughing off.
Yeah.
We actually have the contractor that did the 2 concrete repairs.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, TG and I've been in contact with them. They're going to come up and give us some quotes on those.
Okay.
Due to the fact that our new year just started and maintenance budget and trying to figure that all out and to see what those costs are going to be, and we're probably going to try to address the 2 worst of those.
Okay.
Because we were just over it last week.
You saw what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of them that are of major concern to us, but the 2 of them probably would be more of something that we could address with our maintenance budget this year.
Yeah, it's just that area is critically important to the economies of Lake County and Leadville and Buena Vista. And in the past, when our Independence Pass Foundation were like, why don't we close it for an extra 2 weeks just so we can do more work up here? They were like, no way, this is our summer tourist dollars. This really matters to our little economy. So it is very important to us as well, but it really affects them. So thank you.
Tracy, while you're up there, anything else on the Grand Avenue Bridge you want to share?
I think it's important to share that the detour as it sets now is the tricky parts are those morning commute in and the morning commute out. And the reduction that we're looking for, which is, a heavy, lift, is going to make the difference on how long it takes people to get through there. We talk about 35% being 1 in 3 cars off of the detour. And if we could hit that 35%, you'd have maybe a 15, 20 extra minutes through the detour part. One thing to note, though, is that I do believe we recognize the detour will be busy all day, but I think Glenwood's still open, and people can still get there, and people can still get to Target. You're just going to, there's going to be a timing to when you go. Now, the folks commuting up in the morning and back at night don't really have a choice. Dan's in the crowd. RAFTA's got a great plan in place for trying to get people on transit. Our team has a tremendous amount of information for people to figure out how to create their plan. And if they can't figure it out, we encourage them to reach out to us personally to kind of help navigate what it looks like. But, we've heard a few times, from folks in Aspen, well, okay, I get that bridge is down, but I'll just go over the other bridge. Well, the 8th Street connection and the other bridge over is going to be very busy all day. So again, just timing your trips accordingly. If you can take RAFTA and get to the 27th Street, there's tremendous amount of connection from the 27th BRT into town. We are pushing bicycles, for people to move through Glenwood while we're there. There's going to be, on our site, you can find places where you could drive from Aspen, park your bike at American Furniture Warehouse or Walmart and get on your bike and do your errands, hopefully. I know, understand carrying things and, pannier bags are good to have on your bike, but there are ways to do this, and it's going to really be, it's self-motivated and self-organized, and we recognize that, but I believe we're ready. I know Steve could probably talk about how we've checked, we think, every box we can check at this point, and we are going to have to kind of see what happens on the 14th. So, any questions you have about it, I'm happy to share, but the information is all available. Any employers, can go print our maps, our RAFTA's map, our RAFTA's bus schedule, all linked to our website. So it's really there for folks.
I think it's key too that there's a number of van pools that work at Valley. Those folks need to work with Terry Wilson, the chief of police in Glenwood Springs, and get those van pool passes that will allow them to go and use Wolfson Road up around Target to kind of bypass a portion of the detour. But they will need those passes for van pools.
So it's going to be a little painful, but as I was speaking with Dave earlier, it's something that people on the Front Range deal with on a daily basis, commuting from Denver to Boulder or the Springs. So it's a short term, but it's be something a little different that we haven't seen, but it's not unusual in the urban areas to see that congestion during rush hour peak times.
One of the things Chief Terry Wilson with Glenwood PD shared with us the other day is he's already given out about 54 van pool permits. He anticipated maybe getting 20 or 24 people that would come in and get those. They had to actually bring their vehicle to have it inspected. So, I'm hopeful that we're going to, be surprised at the number of changes people make. And I know that, RAFTA's hope, like ours, is that maybe it'll be a sustained change. And maybe, that transit route from Parachute Inn will catch on. And so, these guys like to tease me because I used to work at Disney, so I'm often, the rainbow, sunshine, and unicorn person in the group. But, I'm with you. I think there could be some real sustained change that would be great for getting traffic off the road anyway. I think Aspen probably could appreciate that after, when we come to pay, we know it's never a good week, but it has to be done.
We've got about 15 minutes left, so I don't want to cut your presentation short, and I know there was a few other topics we wanted you to touch on.
Yeah, so let me hit those to make sure we hit them. On the agenda that Brian has sent me, a couple questions. The Grand Avenue closure, one of the questions was Independence Pass plowing. So we've talked about that with the maintenance folks. Hopefully, we won't get a big winter early, and Independence Pass will be able to stay open longer than maybe normal if necessary. But once our biggest challenge with Independence Pass will be the avalanche control stuff. And I've talked with Mike about this. As far as plowing it, if we get an early storm, we can get it plowed. We may have to close it overnight or whatever, but plowing, it's the simple part. But once we get enough snow up there that the avalanche danger increases, that's when we probably will, be limited on what we can do, since we don't have an avalanche mitigation program through the winter up there. So that's probably our biggest challenge with the winter coming in. Hopefully it doesn't come in early this year. There was another question about wildlife crossings. I know, Commissioner, you were at the Wildlife Summit, I think, and so we had a very successful project on Highway 9 with CDOT, and it was basically a private partnership that really instigated it, and then the local governments got involved. And in a nutshell, the private partnership and the locals paid for the majority of the wildlife mitigation. Now, we worked with Colorado Department CPW, Parks and Wildlife, and they were a very key partner in helping to establish a successful project that built 2 overpasses and 5 underpasses through that section. Now it's been recognized nationally as this is the way we should be doing things. And right now CPW is a great partner with us. We're looking at all of the western slope. Mike Vanderhoff's been working with a project that they will bring in their data and show us their highest migration routes. We'll bring in our data and show us our highest hits and try to prioritize where we would do wildlife mitigation. The bottom line is it still does come down to funding. Often the cheapest mitigation is fencing, and we know that's not necessarily the most wildlife friendly. And I think CDOT would like to do better in that area, but that 10-mile section cost us, 11-mile section, about $10 million for the wildlife mitigation. But what we did see is if we organize ourselves and we get good partnerships, there's a lot of local people that want to step up, and there's a lot of agencies and organizations out there that are willing to contribute funding, contribute time, property. So I think it's about developing those partnerships. And I think that was the success story of that project. It started at the grassroots. So certainly I know we're always interested, and I know 82 is a corridor that we've fenced off, and I'm not sure that's been the best for the wildlife migration, but certainly we're always open to new approaches if we can just figure out how to fund them, really, is what it comes
Right. Could you just quickly, the cost, again, you said $10 million for the mitigation through that section on Highway 9. Is that just the fencing mitigation, or are you
That
talking
was the
about
fencing and the overpasses, approximately $10 million. It was about a,
2 overpasses and 5 underpasses and the fencing for 10? Is that correct?
Yeah, two overpasses, 5 large underpasses, and then there's like an additional 8 or 9 smaller, underpasses ranging from culverts to like pipe culverts to box culverts.
Really? And the total budget for that was around 10 million?
for that portion of the project. The project was
Right.
a $60 million project.
Right,
a
okay, I thought there was a higher
50-some
number.
million dollar project. But when you break out all the fencing and all the mitigation, it's about $10 million.
Okay, great, thanks. Of course, I'm eager to hear more about it.
Yeah, certainly. And then another question was, CDOT considering potential electric bike usage on highways, and I know that's a big topic, but right now, Colorado law, I believe, I should look it up, but I think it allows bikes on bike lanes and shoulders that go less than 20 miles an hour, 750 watts or whatever. So there is statute in place that allows e-bikes on state highways. Now, trail systems, usually that's, we're leaving that up to the local jurisdictions on how they're trying to manage their trail systems, and often our trails, our IGAs say it's to the locals to manage them. So I know there's a lot of conversation around the state about e-bikes on trails. FHWA has not given a strong position on this at this time. I think some of the challenges are, they promote like our TAP funding, and some of the funding that builds bike trails is multimodal. And when you talk about multimodal and you're trying to get people out of cars, certainly some people might get on an e-bike, but the real question then is how do you enforce 20 miles an hour? And I've talked to George about this. How do you enforce 20 miles an hour for a guy on a road bike? And I think it's a real challenge for our locals statewide. So it's not only in your community, I think that you guys are having some of these challenges, but they are allowed on state highways. I don't know if that helps answer the question or if there's more that I can offer on that.
That's good, thanks.
And then there was another question, and this one came up last year, about a possible acceleration lane, and I think the question is really coming out of the boat ramp there just below Carbondale that would head down Valley. Now, we looked at that very briefly. Is it possible? I think it's possible. The real question would come about funding there. And this is always one that people don't like me to say, but there has been no accident history there. So as far as like applying for faster safety money or federal safety money, they always look at accident history. And so there's nothing there. So to identify how we would fund that is really a challenge. We haven't moved forward with that. Like I said, we briefly talked about it. I can tell you our traffic engineer he's like, boy, I really wish they would come out of here, make a right hand and go up to the signal and turn around. And that's probably the best solution. But the only way to force that is probably block it off, and that's not possible because people are going to come across there and try to go down Valley and merge into traffic. So I think we can put up some signage there that no left turn, and hopefully people would go up to the signal and come back around. It's out of way, but it's probably only out of way a half mile, 3/4 of a mile. Certainly for those raft companies that are pulling trailers, it would seem like a much safer maneuver to go up Valley, turn at the signal, and come back. But we're happy to work with you guys if there's something we want to, if there's interest in a partnership. Right now, it's nowhere in any plan
Yeah.
for funding, and it's a little beyond maintenance going out
And it's
there. and
actually
just
in
scabbing
Garfield
it.
County.
It is in Garfield County, okay. So I'd have to go after Garfield County for partnership. Darn it, Commissioners, hoping to partner with Pitkin, but it's
we'll keep looking
we've
at
heard
it.
it, but,
Got some things,
I
yeah.
mean, we have some great partnerships with CDOT, and
do.
and certainly you touched on this earlier, just near the completion of the BOCC underpass, which is going well. That's a great partnership. We did the Airport Business Center underpass, which was a great partnership. As you may know, that we've sent out an RFP for design and engineering for our underpass at Buttermilk. The DLTC is funded, and hopefully we'll get that to be ready to be shovel-ready for future discussion for partnerships. So we appreciate the partnerships that we're doing in Pitkin County. I'm not sure we want to extend our money down into Garfield, although we have contributed to help mitigate the Grand Avenue Bridge. The OTC contributed about $330,000 that RAPTA is using to help provide free buses from Parachute on that you've discussed. So we have lots of things we're working with you, and we appreciate that.
And I think along those same lines, I was talking to Mike this morning. Right now, this milling's going on in Aspen. I want to say thanks to the city of Aspen. I know they've got flaggers out there helping us today. I think Pitkin County's out there with trucks taking some millings off. So I think that is the lowest level of partnerships when our maintenance forces will work together and try to get things done.
Or the highest level,
Or
depending on
maybe
how
the
you look at it.
Yeah, I guess it's the best level. It's at the lowest. It's the grassroots level. Is
Yes,
probably a
okay, that's
word.
better.
And I think those are the ones that probably get the most done sometimes. So I appreciate that. There was a question about the surface treatment project here in Aspen. So right now, looking out at our planning from our surface treatment program, they are looking at a project in 2021 that would pave Aspen downtown. That would certainly be a huge project. In that process, between our resident engineer and the city of Aspen, there was some discussion about, well, would CDOT be willing to just turn money over to Aspen and let them do this work, and which led to the potential of discussion around a devolution. And what is devolution? Really, that's a process that was put in place by our commission several years ago that we look at our maintenance expenses on a section of road, and if it's a logical termini that we would potentially be able to give that state highway to the locals for jurisdiction of maintenance and management, we would take our maintenance dollars over 20 years, and we would give the locals the funding that we would normally put into a project or a section over 20 years. Now, most of the time when you look at that, it's not very appealing to the locals because in this case, 2-mile section between mile 40 and 42, which if we were to do it, I think the commission would want to see a logical termini, which would probably be the gate at Pass, because that's kind of a logical termini at least 6 months out of the year. The maintenance over 20 years is about $4 million. So that's not a whole lot of money to take on that 2-mile section of road. Now, the commission has to approve that money, and they would have to give us the money to get into a partnership with the locals. And I'm throwing out some ballpark numbers. Now, our program for the surface treatment is $3.5 to $4 million anticipated. So we could also, because of the timing of our capital project, we could go to commission and say, well, look, we were going to do this project anyway, so we would give the locals the money for the capital project, and in addition, we'd give them the $4 million plus or minus for maintenance. And that's all based on actual cost of what it's costing us to do maintenance over the last 5 years. So there's potential there. It's something that we've talked a little bit with Aspen. We really haven't pushed that very far. But so if you're hearing about that discussion, it's a discussion now. I've seen our commission turn down devolution, and I've seen them approve devolution. It's all about kind of if they have the money and where's the money coming from, and if they think it's a good decision for CDOT.
Rachel?
Well, on that topic, I would just hazard a guess that the maintenance has been inadequate, even though you guys are stretching to do as much as you can. I understand the budget constraints, so I don't think the $4 million would really get them very far. But separate from that, we're concerned with the overall repaving of Highway 82 outside of Main Street, more in the county. When you leave the roundabout and going to the Airport Business Center, or as you guys are going down Valley and leaving today, you can see 2-inch sections opening up between the paving strips already, and it is falling apart. You can see the gullies, and I know you deal with this in a lot of other places, but we need to know when the larger 82 is on the program for repaving.
So that's good timing. So one of the tabs in here is our engineering section. Now, this only identifies projects that are in the next through 2020. It doesn't even have Aspen in here, but Steve can talk about a couple of projects that are at least in the near proximity. One of them is 82 from Carbondale into Glenwood.
But before we jump to that, because again, that's Garfield County, and we're interested in the road that's falling apart in Pitkin County, and I just want to put a few things out there. One, so that you know, when Colorado Counties Inc. asked for our legislative agenda for the upcoming year, we submitted to reintroduce the transportation bill that was killed in the Senate Finance last year and use that as a starting point and try to get more funding going forward. So we're going to be out there pushing for CDOT funding and for a vote in 2018 that is not based on bonding with no new repayment source, which is absurd. The other item is that we need to know what we can get back out of that at some point, and the Tier 1 list, which I believe is what you've given us. But that was a lot of subject to debate, I'd say, at CCI, of communities that hadn't yet gotten their act together to have something on the list. I mean, we have the underpasses, but, you know, in terms of Maroon Creek Bridge or greater repaving of the entire road system, we have nothing on the list. And that's critical, that we get something on that Tier 1 list. If there's going to be a $20 billion bond and they're going to be pulling sales tax out of a community like ours, we really appreciate the share back. We need that to take care of county roads and city roads. But, and especially once you go into the sales tax tree, it's important there's a share back. But, you know, it's going to be really hard to see the type of dollars generated out of this community on sales tax and then have nothing to show for it for 20 years except one $3 million underpass. So that's an issue I have going forward, and I think we need to find a way to get, whether it's the real rebuild of this road to start in 2019, 2020, but it is falling apart so fastly that the costs to repair are doubling. You know, it's going to be a full base rebuild, not just patching or resurfacing.
Yeah, and I don't know, Steve, if you know in our surface treatment model where the section of 82 in Pitkin County even is it's out
Well,
there? Or?
it's not in our 4-year plan, so it's not in our 4-year plan. I'd have to look at our,
Take a look as you're driving out. You'll see that it's just not going to make it with the type of traffic we have coming in and the weight and the trucks.
I'll take a look.
Thank you. And the one last thing I would say is we talked last year about when the highway is repainted, that we start repainting the HOV symbols on the road as well. And you talked about getting a template from the Front Range to be able to do that. It's really hard to enforce HOV on the road when the road markings have disappeared.
We've got about 5 minutes left here.
With that, Commissioner, I think we need to probably have a separate side meeting about, there was some discussion about moving HOV into the other lane. And I know we did a little reach out, and I know it's certainly Pri-Raft is a huge player in that because of their operations and the way things work. But I got a lot of mixed messages, and I don't know if I have a consistent message of, boy, if we're going to move HOV and we're going to repaint them, let's do it now. And
I gotcha.
I think there's some folks out there that love to put HOV into the inside lane, and then there's some folks that wouldn't. And I may need to set up a separate meeting with some of the stakeholders just to really hammer that out, because that's probably one of the reasons we haven't repainted it. We
Okay.
actually were considering moving it, but I think
That makes sense.
we need to figure that one out.
All right.
As far as the surface treatment program, I couldn't agree more. I'm very concerned as a long-term CDOT employee that when we keep pulling away from asset management, as this new bill might do, then all of our roadway surfaces are going downhill faster. And you can drive across anywhere in this region right now on I-70, 82, some of our, drive over in, some of our Independence Pass is a good example, Douglas Pass, I mean, they're terrible. And it's not very hopeful that we keep kind of looking at capital improvement projects, even at the expense
Capacity
of,
as opposed to
even
maintenance.
at the expense of maintenance. And it's really getting challenging for some of the more rural regions to keep up. So I hear your concern. I will try to check and see where we stand with some of the paving here in Pitkin County, is where it is on our list. I'm sure it's probably out there somewhere, not too far away. It's just a matter of the limited dollars and making it get there. But even at that, we might be able to stretch our surface treatment project here through town, at least to get out to those roundabouts, because I know where you're talking. And maintenance did a great job last year getting in there and patching for us,
They
but
did.
it's
And
a
I thank
patch.
Kathy Hall.
And it's just a patch, right? So I know that they did a good job, but it's going to need more treatment.
Thank you.
Steve?
We've been talking mainly about I-70 and Highway 82, but Highway 133 has lots of things happening. We're doing a study to extend the bike trail, from Carbondale to Crested Butte, but the part that is really the engineering, the part in Pitkin County is from the BRB up to McClure Pass. And our study hasn't even been given to us yet in terms of the different locations and whatnot, but there's a good possibility that a lot of it will be along the 133 corridor, in the easement. And so I'm sure you're aware of that, but it's something that to keep your eye on. And it's fairly soon we're going to be having our reports going to be given back to us on the engineering and wildlife concerns and the costs and all the various considerations.
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner. I think the TAP program's a great one to keep looking at as you get things figured out dollar-wise, and we'll certainly always be a partner to try to make, best bike improvements we can. Now, a lot of that's on forest property, so it's not even necessarily our right-of-way. We're on an easement ourselves. So it'll be some challenges, I think.
We have a lot going on here, and it just occurs to me that perhaps we would have at least a few of you come back this spring after the Grand Avenue Bridge is done. We've got several different studies that are being completed through RAFTA's Integrated Transportation System. The Upper Valley Mobility Study is completed. So there's the Crystal River Valley. So it occurs to me that perhaps we should try to schedule another meeting specifically on some of these projects to update you, get your input and advice on how we want to go forward in terms of funding opportunities. So maybe we'll try to set up for in the springtime.
Absolutely. We can work on that.
Okay, so with that, we didn't get through the entire book, but we have this as a resource. I want to thank everybody for coming in. We need to break for lunch, and we'll be back here maybe about 1:10.
Great. I do want to
Yes.
say Kathy Cannell sends her apologies. She called me late last night. She had something come up where she had to watch her grandson this morning, and she said that was a higher priority. Unfortunately, it was an
Well,
emergency,
maybe in our spring meeting.
We'll bring her back.
That would be great. Thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Grassroots, we're going to break for lunch back here at 1:10.
Georgia, I particularly wanted to make this one, but I'm
Let's see, we've got future agendas on our schedule next, and then we'll have the liquor permit. Was there someone coming from, because you're a little early, so why don't we go to future agendas first?
Okay, thanks, George. Just a couple things for you all. You'll see in front of you, I handed out a draft budget meeting calendar. It's just so, believe it or not, we're starting our planning now and working on the 2018 budget. And wanted to give you a preview of what the calendar is going to look like for the board's consideration. It's really going to follow a format similar to what we've been doing the past roughly 5 years now, where we organize our main budget presentations around the core focus areas of our strategic plan. We'll be kicking it off with the board on September 12th, where we'll be looking at economic assumptions that drive our assumptions for revenues for the 2018 budget and 5-year plan. We'll then be, September 21st is not a board calendar item, but it's, you can see when staff will be finalizing staff recommendations for the budget. And then the first presentation to the board will be October 10th. That will be a high-level budget overview. We are required by statute to present a first draft of the budget by October 15th. The budget then needs to be adopted by December 15th. And so you'll see our calendars for consideration and more detailed discussion of the budget is really built around meetings between that October 10th and we're anticipating final adoption from the board on December 12th. So wanted you to just kind of see what's coming up on that and see if you had any questions or concerns about our draft timing on those.
All right, questions, anybody?
That's good.
Second item for you is you'll recall we canceled our joint meeting with the City of Aspen that was going to be taking place today, I believe, actually, was when we had originally scheduled it. And what we had talked about doing was getting together following the council's retreat and setting of goals for meetings similar to what we did with the town of Snowmass Village and going over goals and just kind of overall priorities and having a more generalized discussion with the City of Aspen, with the council. Right now, there are a couple of probably a few dates that are looking like possibilities and wanted to run those by this board. The city has August 21st or 22nd available to do that. And then the next meeting time that they would have available would be after September 11th or 12th, if we wanted to do mid-September.
So August 22nd is a regular work session, so we would be here.
Yeah.
I'll just be back. I'm coming back the 20th, so I'll be here for that day.
Just what you want to do?
Step right in.
Looks like Steve's checking his calendar here. Does that?
Yeah, the 21st, 22nd works for me, whatever.
So 22nd, why don't you just shoot Patty and Rachel an email, since that's a regular work session. If they're going to be in town, let's go for that.
Okay, we'll do that. And that's really all I had for you on future agendas.
Future agendas, anybody?
That's it for me.
I alerted John Kruger just a little while ago that we need to reschedule the ELTC meeting Thursday, September 14th. That is going to be the RAFTA board retreat date. And so it's going to limit a bunch of people from probably making that ELTC meeting. So I told John to maybe send out a Google Calendar, look at some dates, but maybe you could check with Brian, and either one of the, either the following the week or the week after that.
Okay.
And let's see, I think that's it for me for right now. We did, John, did you note that we were going to reschedule the joint meeting with the Aspen School District Board?
Yeah, Phyllis had let me know that from last week's discussion.
Okay. And that's it, I guess. Okay, so then, next on the agenda is the Aspen Valley Land Trust Special Event Liquor Permit. Welcome.
Jeanette Jones, clerk to the board, and I have with me today Melissa from Aspen Valley Land Trust. And I just wanted to thank you, first of all, John and the board, for allowing us to come before you at a special meeting. And I'm sure the Land Trust appreciates it also.
Oh, you know what? I need to
You
call
should
to order a
call.
special meeting. So I'll call to order a special meeting. Okay, we're in a special meeting.
Thank you. I knew you would do that. So, anyway, this is a special event liquor permit for the Aspen Valley Land Trust annual fundraising event. As I typically do, I'll let Melissa speak to you about the components of the event. And also, they have applied for a special event permit for the land, and Mike Kramer said that everything is in place for that, so just to let you know.
Okay. How you want to give us a little information about the event?
Yeah, so hopefully most of you know, AVLT is celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. So instead of our usual land dance fundraiser, we're doing a celebratory gala, and we're being hosted by Suzanne Farver at Get Along Ranch on White Star Ranches on August 12th. And tickets are on sale if you haven't got yours yet at avlt.org. But it's going to be a little more elegant of an evening, not so much of a barn dance as we've had in the past, but you know, really trying to showcase the work we've done in the last 50 years and all of our great partnerships. We're really pleased that Pitkin County Open Space and Trails is once again a sponsor, and this year also the City of Aspen. So we're being underwritten by Alpine Bank, and we have a lot of other area sponsors and supporters, and we're hoping to sell out and have a really lovely evening with a farm-to-table dinner, a silent and live auction, and then a great Motown band to dance to. So we'll be serving beer, wine, and liquor at the event, and it's all contained within the private property.
Okay, questions? Steve?
Well, it's not a question, but it's a full disclosure that I will be at the event, and I think you will be too, George, because we're using tickets from the Open Space and Trails. And also, I've been a donor of Aspen Valley Land Trust in the past, so just full disclosure, I've been at the event many years in the past, and it's always been a great event. And has never been any issues that I've ever seen revolving around having people consuming alcohol. So I
Yeah,
would be
we've
fully
not
in
had
favor
any
of
issues.
approving this.
Okay.
I reiterate what Steve said. I appreciate AVLT and I want to congratulate him for 50 years. And it's going to be a great event. I'm sure I'm going to miss it. I'll be out of town. And I'm so sorry about that, but I'm in favor of the license. And I want everyone to have a great time.
Thanks, Greg.
This is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I would accept a motion.
I would move to approve the liquor license for AVLT for the August 12th event.
I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, well, have a great event, and we'll see you up there.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thanks,
Excited
Jeanette.
to see you
Yeah,
there.
we definitely.
And thanks to Alpine Bank and the other sponsors.
Yeah, we're very appreciative. Thanks again, gentlemen.
Okay, we're going to move on to open discussion. John?
Yeah, and I suppose this probably could have gone under future agenda discussions also, but I just wanted to let the board know. The board had received a presentation from proponents of doing a multi-jurisdictional housing authority from Glenwood on up. Staff has now received a draft intergovernmental agreement that group is proposing. And I think, one, I just wanted you all to be aware that we had received that. We're taking a look at it. We will obviously need to do a work session again with the board. And obviously when we have full attendance, I think, just to get some direction about if and how the board wants us to respond to this request to sign on to the IGA. So we'll take some time to look at it, put some pros and cons together for you, and get a work session together in the future. I just wanted you to know that we were in receipt of that if you get questions.
All right, great.
And that's unfortunately all I had on
Okay, anybody else have anything for open discussion? Steve?
George, you and I have gotten a couple of emails about this, the Colorado Compact. I can't think of the exact title of it, the City of Aspen thing. And the latest one was talking about a webinar, which is tomorrow from 1 to 2. And I'm going to be at the tail end of a meeting in Gypsum right then, and I think I could probably hunker down over there and participate in the webinar from in Gypsum. Just so we'd have at least one person from Pitkin County in on the discussion and trying to learn more about it. But I didn't know if you were going to be attending the webinar, and we never have really had a discussion on the board level about whether we're going to be joining that group officially or not.
Is this the group out of Durango?
No, this is it's called.
While George is looking at it, it's an initiative from the city of Aspen. And I've just lost the acronym myself.
I think it's Colorado.
The Compact of Colorado Communities.
That's it.
And so this was instituted by, put together by the City of Aspen, and Ashley Pearl was really the coordinator for that. So I asked John to get together with Ashley and find out more about the status of roles and responsibilities, the commitments, before we sign on, because we really never got a follow-up in terms of what they were really looking for. So John will do that, and we'll probably have come back to us during an open discussion, I suspect.
And I'm meeting with city staff tomorrow on a different issue. Ashley will be in that meeting. I'm hoping to grab a few minutes to pose that question.
Yeah, great.
So I think I'll participate in the webinar, and then I can give a report back what it was like, if it seemed like was valuable information, or whatever my take on what the ACCO organization put together there.
All right, great. Anything else for open discussion?
You know, I'd love to mention a couple of the letters I've received on various topics and calls. One, I don't know if I had told you all this before, but I've been getting calls from people who say they're noticing a difference in quiet and less noise from the ATV ban. People who live on the back side of the mountain as well as the front. I've had some people stop me in the street and say, you don't know what a difference this has made. So while some people are saying it's an enforcement issue and there doesn't really seem to be much enforcement, the people that were making the noise before said that they're noticing a positive effect of keeping the ATV OHV ban in place. A second thing I saw is someone else contacted me about graffiti. They're seeing graffiti under the bridge of Stein Bridge, and I think the other bridges out of our on the Tyhack, the Terrell Wade Bridge. Seeing graffiti popping up, and just want to let people know that we know about it, and we've contacted the authorities. John's talked to the sheriff's office about getting people to help erase that. And then the final one is just an interesting thing that came up years ago. Remember when someone did an advertisement up on Pearl Pass, and they did some graffiti on a rock advertising their company. And apparently some of that stuff is still there. It didn't get taken out. And somebody just noticed and said, hey, wait a minute, we thought this had been addressed. So if it comes up again, we're looking at it, and I'm looking into it. But those are just some of the letters that have come across. And the last letter is a couple notes on the landfill sign, which kind of came in. And I talked to John about this yesterday. I'd love to figure out how I can encourage people to get engaged earlier in the process rather than wait till a decision's been made. Just love to talk about that sometime. Maybe it's me learning how the process works, but if it comes to first reading, wouldn't it be great if people who are concerned got engaged then rather than after the third or fourth visit on the topic? Maybe that'll never go away, but wondering what your experiences are with that.
Yeah, that's always a challenge. There'll be people in a couple of weeks that will say, what's with all this traffic down in Glenwood? Because they haven't read, or they've been up in the hills, or who knows. So,
right.
I mean, we always post, the agendas are there, and inevitably people come out at after the decision has been made. So that's the nature of politics in Pickens County and probably elsewhere.
That's kind of what I heard from John.
That'd be my comment.
That's what you said.
That'd be my comment.
So.
It is a constant struggle, and it is something that we try and take seriously, and certainly try different avenues to engage the public on these issues. And I think we're always surprised at the end when somebody doesn't know about an issue that they care about. And so we'll keep working at that, and if you have ideas, Greg.
Sure, I'll try and broadcast them early. It's great if we have if something interesting happening at a first reading, maybe I'll just try to make a note to put the word out before a second reading.
Yeah.
And then on the agendas, if there isn't further open discussion, we had mixed up our order for our facilities updates. We had listed Dave and Rich, but they were to you last time, so it was actually Jody's turn to update you on the other facilities projects that.
Perfect. I'm glad
Even better.
So.
You're here a little early, so it works out great, Jody.
Hey.
Thanks.
Got the building done yet?
We're working on it. Definitely coming out of the ground. Jody Smith, I'm the facilities director, and I don't have any exciting slideshows for you today, but mostly to talk about some bullet points about where we're at, some of the things we're in conversation with, and then let you ask some questions, and so that's what my intent is today. Some facilities information that I thought would be fun for you guys to know is that Raimundo Martinez, who is my facilities custodial supervisor at night, he's been with us for a little over 9 years, and he was accepted into the Roaring Fork Leadership Program this year. And so super excited about that. I know I'm a 2013 graduate, and I learned so much. And so I'm really excited about having one of my staff members go through as one of our leadership team. So the second thing would be about custodial services. I think in about 2007, maybe 2008, and I apologize, I don't have the exact date, we outsourced a couple of our buildings, the library and now Basalt, since as we moved down there. And I just kind of wanted to put a bug in your ear that we are really doing an analysis of the outsourcing versus bringing it in-house again this year for our budget process over the last couple of years. So since we moved to outsourcing those 2 buildings, we've been through 3 different vendors. It's been very difficult for us to maintain a certain level of service. So we wanted to just take a look at that and reevaluate what are we really saving when it comes to managing the contract versus our own employees and that expected level of service. So that will be coming to you in the budget process, and there's a potential that we'll be asking for some FTEs based on what we find in that. So I kind of want to just put it out there so it's not a surprise. If there's anything else you'd like us to dig into before that, I'm happy to take notes. So that's just an FYI that we're looking at that. I think with the expansion of this, the library and this after-hours use, and it's just made it a little more complicated. So that's what we're doing. Commissioner Child had asked a while back on what was happening with the Sheriff Whitmire family stone. And I had been in communication with Sheriff Whitmire's daughter over the years, letting her know we were taking it down, that we were storing it, that kind of thing, and a couple other communications. And we talked last week, and her grandson wants to bring the stone home. And so we agreed for him to pick it up, and it won't be then replaced anywhere on a county property. That she had no idea that her son was so interested in the family history, and so I guess he's gathering a bunch of stuff about his grandfather. So unless you have heartburn about that, that is our intent.
Where is she? Is she in the valley?
She's down in Newcastle, I believe.
Newcastle, okay.
And her son works here in Aspen, so he's here every day and said he wanted to swing by and get it. So.
She's one of my classmates from the Aspen school system.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
I have her contact information. Another update, I took a drive up the frying pan over the last couple of months, and in 2005, we did a Thomasville lime kiln stabilization project where we actually got transportation funds to help stabilize those kilns. We dismantled them quite a ways, stabilized and put them back the way they were. And I took some photographs of the condition that they're in now. And just the top couple of stones from the snow and the weight and the conditions that happen up there with freeze-thaw, they're coming apart. And so I'm going to pursue some money in 2018 and some grant funds to restabilize those tops so that we don't have to someday go to that depth that we did. I think it was over $100,000, and I'm guessing that this is maybe a $20,000 fix for both.
Yeah, Jody, I was up there the other day, and I noticed it looked like one of them had a pretty good vertical crack going through it too.
Those vertical cracks are there on purpose.
They are, okay.
Yeah. So when we put them back together, we put them back exactly the way they were. So we had a lot of, because there was state historic fund money and CDOT, and we had a lot of involvement, and we built them right exactly the way, but we stabilized the cracks so it didn't further decay.
Okay.
And then we also found a local in the valley who actually fixed those 50-gallon drums that were rusted on top and kind of put those back too. So, but it was amazing. It's so overgrown up there. So I hadn't been up there in a while. So it was fun to kind of go and revisit and see how they're doing.
Yeah, good.
I am going to be working on a business case with the BITS department to look at software programs that will better track our real estate rentals and CAM and all that stuff now that we're kind of building or buying, especially with the basalt building, and we now have tenants that we're collecting from. And then space management and move software that will kind of help us manage and understand what our resources are as we build this new building that is flexible, and we can, as people are starting to grow out of their departments or asking for different kinds of changes, that we can evaluate and look at it from more of a holistic instead of reactionary. And so I don't know what that's going to look like, but it's been something that's been on my wish list for a long time. So Carrie has offered to work with me on getting a business case and figuring out what the right thing is to do. A county this size, is that even something we want, or is it really better to do on spreadsheets? So we want to just kind of look at that. And then I had an opportunity to talk to Cindy Hubin last week after your meeting on the climate action plan, which I wasn't really familiar with. So I'm going to be joining that team, and that will give me an opportunity to really look at facilities in a different way and have a bigger picture that is involved with community development and following your direction. So again, I'm kind of excited about that.
That's wonderful to hear you say that. I'm interested in what you find when you get involved with that. I was at a tour and a presentation at RMI just last week, and they were talking about how in commercial buildings and large, I guess I don't call it a commercial building, but a large structure like this, the building actual management software for the systems can make a huge difference in energy savings. And that's kind of might be some cream to skim, or some low-hanging fruit in terms of energy efficiency with the new building. So I think that'll be essential, and it'll be interesting to see what you come up with.
Well, and I think we already have a CMS program that is managing our systems, and we implemented a energy dashboard a few years ago, and it's now finally running its cycle, and we're able to troubleshoot it, like, we can see where a building's really not running efficiently, and then we get to manage that through the CMS program. So you're spot on. We're going to be putting that dashboard in the lobby of in the entryway of the new building, so the public can actually see where we're running. I've been working on trying to get it on the website. So far, I've only gotten a snapshot onto our internal website. But yeah, it's something that I think by joining this team that I'll get some assistance in getting those things better implemented and out there.
Great.
So yeah, it's exciting. So a couple other things to just talk about were our project statuses, some of the things we're working on. Pat Bingham, based on your direction last week to Dave and Rich, was the naming opportunity. So she's creating an internal message and sending that out probably this week with the naming of the building itself and then some of the meeting rooms. So pretty exciting. That will get some participation. Again, we do have a bit of a timeline. The building naming, I talked to my sign package people yesterday, and October 1st is when we have to know the name of the building so that they can get it into their packet and permitting. Otherwise, our February deadline might slip for getting signs installed. So that will be coming back to you with Dave and Rich, but just thought I'd give you an update. The BOCC tables that we showed you at the meeting last week, I did take your suggestions for some flip-ups and making it a little more adjustable, making it a little bigger. They did send me something back. I'm not even going to show it to you. It was just horrible. And they, because of the elbow room, Greg, that you had talked about, that you were worried, and I had them put people in there, and it was really tight. They weren't willing to do flip because they just felt like it would lose the integrity and be damaged.
Is this the designer that's causing you all this trouble?
Yeah. So, not that designer. So we're continuing to pursue that. It's not lost. But I just didn't want to. My intention was to bring you like the new solution today, but we don't quite have it. So that'll come back. The Plaza Project furniture specifications and bid packet will be going out on August 22nd. Our procurement officer will be out until the 21st. We just have a 3-day overlap between the time of getting that and putting it out. So that'll get out there, and we have a great process. We're pretty excited about how we're going to do this, and we hope to get some good responses. The library roof is in project closeout. Whew. It looks great up there. It's working really well with all the rainstorms that we've had. It's doing its job as far as
Great.
taking the water off the building. And so we'll be closing that out probably for a couple of months, given the complications with the change orders and stuff. We want to make sure we get those all tracked. The basalt office roof and deck replacement. So the entire roof system will be replaced. The deck where the Stubby's recreational area is, where they play games and they have smoking and stuff out there. And then the deck in front of the double black diamond and the attorney's office. So that will be taken out. We've got some leaks that happen downstairs, so we're pulling that out, putting a new membrane down, and then reusing the tracks so we don't fill up the landfill. And then we are on the upper roof. So I'm working with Charlotte and all of the tenants to make sure that they're all aware of noise. We're blocking that room so that people are not using that meeting room, being disturbed. Very difficult when people are banging in your head above. So we're working on the schedule with that. I've also been meeting with the tenants about the parking that'll be happening, because we will be using the back lot for staging of all those materials in the lift. So that means the Chinese restaurant and all the county cars will come out into the main parking lot for that time. Also working very closely with Real America, because they've got a whole utility and transformer upgrade that they have to do in that area. So we're in complete alignment. We're gonna work together, and I don't see any issues with it. So the jail chiller and the library elevator, I just kind of wanted to let you guys know. We had money for both of those projects this year, and in doing further investigation, when I looked at those and I had the vendors looking at them, we decided that the jail chiller really does have a few more years of life to it. It's not at critical mass, although we have some compression problems today, but those will be solved. So I've engaged SGM to do the actual design to replace it with the money that I have this year, and then carry forward or use that savings and put that replacement out a few years. So it'll free up about $40,000 that we won't use in 2017. And then the library elevators, I started to engage them in a contract, and when I was looking at the scope, and then I went over and was really digging into the elevators, they don't need as much as what was put into that packet. And so I'm meeting with the elevator representative on the 9th, and we're going to rescope it and hopefully save a bunch of money and not do unnecessary work. So we do have one of the elevators that clunks, and that's what we want to fix. And then we've got the other elevator in here has got some problems where the landing isn't hitting right. So that's the stuff we want to address, not grab bars there's nothing wrong with them. And so that's where I really wanted to free that up and make sure we're doing the right work. The courthouse renovation work, that scope of work, John Peacock and Rich and I met with the steering committee, which is all of the court staff and the chief judge. We have a really good scope of work that we're going to be working with, keeping it right-sized. And so that RFP will probably be going out this week before our procurement officer goes on vacation. So we're excited about finally getting that out. Actually, it'll go out next week, but it's going. We're getting really close. And then the solid waste center, they have a stairway between the two buildings that just kind of connects the two levels of earth. They're not connected to anything. Between the SGM did some design on the stability, and Myers is doing on the foundation, and Myers is doing the metal stairs. And Solid Waste Center and facility staff are going to work together to get those sonotubes and get the concrete poured, and then Myers will come and set the stairs. So we're getting really close on that. This week, the sonotubes and concrete go in, and then Myers will come and tweak the measurements, so that'll be off our plate. So.
Good, thanks, Jody. Questions?
Any
Steve?
questions?
Jody, there have been a couple times when I've been working in the commissioner's room down in the Stubby's building, and it's some big loud noise going on that sounds like the boiler firing, like it's the middle of winter time, but maybe it's something from the subway shop underneath, or it just seemed out of place to me. It seemed like a noise you would hear in the middle of winter when, you know, you're trying to heat the building, and maybe it had to do with the HVAC system or something, and I don't know. Is there part of the equipment that's located like right next to or underneath the?
Which room are you in, upstairs in
Well,
the attorneys?
It's in the attorney's
Okay.
office part, yeah.
There is a chiller unit that's right above that. There's a flat piece of the roof there, and that unit needs some work. So we've been up with 2H Mechanical, getting them serviced. But in 2018, you will see a request in the line item to replace all those air handling, or all those units on the roof. They're awful. So they're,
Okay.
yeah.
So that would explain it on
Yeah.
a hot summer day.
Yeah.
When it's trying to work and
It's trying to cool.
needs some help.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that to your
Yeah, thank
attention, that
you.
I'd noticed that.
Yeah, we were in the Black Diamond room today, and the project next door was vibrating us, but I don't think it was anything to do with our HVAC units.
Just had a quick question about the elevator, it's the library elevator here. I'm still baffled by the labeling on it at times. Maybe because it's
That's
a
part of our
complicated.
upgrade.
I was just wondering if that was going to include that, so people don't wonder where they're being taken.
Yeah, that's part of our upgrade, is to get the signage in there. I know we still have some paper signs for floor 2, and
Right.
yeah, so we'll get that signage taken care of as well, inside as well.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for the update, Jody.
Well, thank you. We'll see you in
Yeah,
a
thanks a
month.
lot.
In a month. Great.
Just a last question is, what is the wood that the BOCC table will be made from? Was that determined, or is that still coming forward?
It's still coming forward, but what the rest of the furniture or the wood in that room is a white oak, and
Okay.
so that's what we
Oh, it'd
have
be a white oak.
proposed, yeah.
Got it.
Stained to match the trim on the windows and such.
I did have a question on the furniture, I just remembered. I know some of the staff was using standing desks or adjustable ones that they could either have up or down. Is that part of the furniture that you're looking at, is having that option for different people?
Actually, that's a great question, and it's something that our employees are asking a lot as well. And we've been working with our health and well-being officer, and what we ended up doing is speccing a stand-up desk for every position. Every desk has one piece. So sometimes it's just this front piece that they're sitting at. There's a very few that have the whole corner that will go up. But every employee, wherever their monitors are, will be a stand-up. And it's the whole unit. It's not the things that sit on the desk. And what we'll do with all of those is we'll reissue them to other departments, or, have a fire sale or something. But, and then the actual stand-up desk that employees are already using, like in the attorney's office or finance, is that I've already put out an email, and I have a reserve list for like people at Road and Bridge and Public Works to reassign those to those employees. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, everybody's getting one. We're pretty much not making it an option. We had one employee who said, "Can I not have one?" And everybody else has said, "Can I have one?" And in thinking about the future and big picture, it's really important for us to just provide it. That way, when that employee leaves, we're not trying to like then scramble with a bunch of furniture and changing things up. So, okay,
All right, thanks, Jody.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
See, we're going to go on to board membership reports. Let's see, Northwest COG, Patty's not here, unless you want
I
to.
went to the meeting last week, and I do have something I could report on that. The meeting was in Grand Lake, and the entire discussion was around a request by a group from Grand Lake requesting that Grand Lake itself be giving us designation of outstanding waters, which is, I don't know if it has to do with the Clean Water Act or or something. It's an official designation. And this was the first time that Northwest Cog Board had ever heard anything like this. It was really a quasi-judicial kind of proceeding with public testimony and a whole presentation by staff, the proponents and opponents. And what we finally decided, we actually continued the item until the Northwest Cog meeting the fall of 2018, which precedes the Water Quality Control Commission meeting in November of 2018, where they will be making the final decision on this matter. And the Grand County Commissioners had asked that we don't proceed with giving this designation because they have a whole working group which includes all of the parties involved in Grand Lake, including Northern Water Conservancy District and the Bureau of Reclamation, who are involved in the Trans-Basin diversion there. And so they're working on trying to improve the clarity of the water in Grand Lake. And they want to do that without having this added kind of a roadblock of having an outstanding waters designation, which would make it harder for them to resolve anything. So it was a very interesting proceeding. It was fun being in Grand Lake and seeing that. I hadn't been over there in years. And kind of deciding part of the fate of that lake that is the headwater of what used to be called Grand River, the Colorado River.
Right, and rural resort region, was that part of the Northwest COG discussion? Rural resort region?
No,
No, okay.
that wasn't part of the meeting.
Okay, so then let's see, CORE, we'll be seeing coming before us the request for the true grant allocations as well as the rent budget, and I think that will come before us this month. But the board, the CORE board approved both of those to move forward. And those come before us for approval, and they also go before the city council for approval. QQ, assuming Rachel went to that, she's not here. CCI, you were there, Steve?
CCI, they were having the Mountain District meeting on August 24th, and Rachel's going to go to that to be able to present the issues that we brought up. A lot of that August 24th meeting will be actually going over the different legislative proposals from all across the state and getting just a brief review of what they entail. So Rachel will be at that meeting, and I won't be at that. Club 20 just had its second round of policy committee meetings. And Rachel went to both of the days over in Frisco, and I went to the second day, which was the Public Lands and Natural Resources Committee, and then the Energy Committee. And nothing earth-shattering coming out of that. And in the Energy Committee, I volunteered to be on, they have kind of a steering committee that looks at the different policies in Club 20. So I volunteered to be on that steering committee. It seemed to be pretty heavily loaded with people from the oil and gas and coal industries, and not too much representation from more green energy and renewable energy aspects. So I thought that we should have somebody working on that.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we've got Colorado River Roundtable Basin. That was probably Rachel's. We have RUAPA.
RUAPA is
What is RUAPA?
Rudai Water and Power Authority. And our big issue has always been, and this year in particular, has been the aquatic nuisance species inspections. And the news is we're up, we've doubled the number of inspections over previous years. And Mark Fuller tells me we had about 2,000 boats were inspected in the first 2 months of this summer. That's all the data he had so far. And having people on the site, what they're realizing is that it's clear that people were not being inspected before that were putting their boats in. So the challenge right now is that the season on Rudai is May 1st to October 1st. This year, people could have gotten on the lake a lot sooner, and there are a lot of people who really would have liked to put their boats in, but they simply couldn't. But even just keeping that season, the May 1st, October season open is going to be tough because it's very expensive. Knowing that our state funding is gone and some of our federal funding has gone away, just making ends meet for the regular season this year will be a little bit tough. I think there's going to be a $20,000 shortfall. We've talked about trying to supplement that with going to nonprofits who might be interested. Between, Roaring Fork Conservancy, some of the people there, Wilderness Workshop, others, ACES have expressed a willingness to listen and help. But there's a sentiment that it's a public, government-run facility, and maybe we shouldn't be going. Certainly can't go to the nonprofits or even private citizens for long-term funding for the situation, which is going to be funding this aquatic nuisance species and inspections in perpetuity. Our share of it, Pitkin County's share of it this year was $9,300. Next year, it's probably going to be $11,500 is what RWAP will be coming to ask for because we're losing funding from CPW and Forest Service. So that's where that stands. We've had a lot of conversations about what stones we can turn over to look for sources of funding, and it's kind of bleak right now. Trying to find non-government entities to put money in. So what I've told Mark that I'd like to do with him is the next legislative session to go back and lobby Parks and Wildlife funding for aquatic nuisance and go back and bring that out again and try and get some money for that. So I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Have you discussed boat ramp fees?
Apparently, we can't. We don't have the authority to do that. We'd have to get permission through the federal government, and somehow they've been discouraging that, but it should still be on the table.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, thanks. Let's see. ACRA, that was Patty, she's not here. RAFTA, the two main items from last month are going to be discussed next week at RAFTA. One is a go-to meetings to try to ensure that we always have a quorum. We fell short of a quorum towards the end of the meeting last week. And then a discussion on e-bikes on the Rio Grande Trail. So that should be interesting. And we have our board retreat. You may want to make a note on this, Greg, Thursday, September 14th.
Yes, it's on my calendar.
Good. Okay, great. Senior Council, Steve?
Senior Council is going to be having a booth at the Aspen Farmers Market on August 26th, and then also at the Basalt Farmers Market on I think it's September 10th. I didn't write it down. So they'll have a booth set up for people to come and get information, and it's been very successful in doing the one day of the summer at the Aspen Farmers Market in the previous years. And that booth is actually sponsored by Mason and Morse. It's right in front of their it's not a store, their business there in Aspen. And one other thing the Senior Council has just started doing, somebody donated money. There's a fruit bowl that sits in the Senior Center. And it's money, I don't know where the money has come from before, but the fruit is there for free for anybody who comes in and needs a snack or something. It's been there ever since I've been involved at the senior center. So someone gave a donation to sponsor the Fruit Bowl for 1 month. And that was announced at our meeting, and then 3 of the senior council members volunteered to sponsor the Fruit Bowl for a month, to donate the money, and the cost is about $200 a month that they spend on the Fruit Bowl. So there's 4 months covered, and we're gonna try to make that a permanent thing where anybody in the community could sponsor the Fruit Bowl at the senior center and get a little recognition and help out on the budget at the senior center.
All right, good idea. Nordic Council, I did not attend. In Intermountain TPR, I was not there as well. So, anything else that we missed? No? Okay. So with that, let's see, I've already called a special meeting to order, so I would accept a motion to go into exec session. Well, this list always grows from our agenda. How does that happen? Okay, so I'll accept the motion to convene exec session for the purpose of discussion of the Fales proposed water agreement, BOCC Ivanhoe litigation, Phillips Trailer Park purchase, City of Aspen diligence applications, Plaza One contract dispute, all pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B.
So moved.
Second?
Who was you guys were too quick on that. Who moved?
I moved it.
And I seconded it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Grassroots. We're in exec session, and we will move upstairs to the tower, yep? Take a short break in between. 10-minute break.